Hey guys, Sean McGarry coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the music salon where great things happen. Hope everyone's doing awesome out there. Got a fun little lesson today, and before I get into it, want to promote something or somebody. Wearing my Guitar Hang podcast shirt. I haven't done that in a while, and yeah, it's got a little something on it. I know it's permanent stain. But man, if you guys haven't done so, check out this podcast and the YouTube channel. And it's my buddy John Stankorb, and he's an amazing guitar player. First of all, he plays with a Pink Floyd tribute band called Signs of Life, but he actually plays with all these, like right now he's out in LA with Tony Franklin, some other big guys, big names doing a tribute show. So he's the real deal, man. But he has some of the best interviews with some of the biggest names in the industry. I mean, he did Steve Lukather recently, and he's a great interviewer, and he asks some cool questions. And if you're a guitar player, you would probably be interested in this channel. So make sure you check that out. Let's jump into today's lesson. This will be, as usual, tabs and additional information will be on my Patreon page. So make sure you check that out. Let's talk about this for a second. So I was thinking like calling this, where's the third or something. And a quick side note, if you're from America and you're my age, which is 1,000 years old, remember the commercial in the 80s, Where's the Beef? I don't know, I just thought of that just now. Like, where's the third? Where's the beef? I know it was a really bad joke, but if you get it, you get it. Now, so seriously, where's the third? Let's talk about that. So this is kind of a spontaneous lesson today. I was messing around with this little idea, and I was trying to think, okay, leave out the third, but also power chords and how important power chords can really be. I think the first thing I ever learned as a kid was a power chord. Actually, the first thing I ever learned was this. Mama Kin, I'll never forget one of my neighbor, Sean Beckman, I'll never forget this. One of my neighbors showed me this riff. I was probably 6th grade, and I still remember it. Anyway, so those were power chords. It's one of the first things we learn as guitar players. But they're more than just these cool rock chords, right? And I'm going to get into that today. So now I did a little thing at the intro. I was just kind of improvising, and I think I hit the third a couple times. But I was just trying to mess around with like ways to create melodies without leaving the third. So let's look at that. If I was in G major, you got to look at the scale. So if I'm in G, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, di, do, right? 1, 2, 3, there's your third. So let's back up even further. A lot of people don't even really know what a power chord is. Hopefully you do, but if you don't, it's pretty darn easy. It's a chord with no third. So if you look at, like, say, the scale, go like that. So play your scale. Do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Play 5 and the 1 together, and that's your power chord. And you can play that in different spots. I'm going to show it to you in some unique ways to play it. And the power chord is a very cool thing because it has no third, as I mentioned 20 times already, and it can be major or minor, so it can kind of trick the ear. And it's funny too because I have a bunch of chord books I've acquired over the years and for lessons and teaching, and there's never any mention of power chords, and it's one of the most commonly used things. So it's kind of funny that a chord book that I've seen doesn't even acknowledge a power chord. Okay, so yeah, you can fool the ear. Let me do one more little thing here. If I take something very common and go A minor, G major, F major, check it out. Okay, now stop for a second. Now what if I just play? It's got that same sound, but it doesn't have the qualities that make it minor or major that kind of spice it up. So that's what a power chord is. But you can use it for a lot of cool things. So let's start by position 1 of a power chord. Okay, and what I'll do here is I can add the root right here. Now this is pretty basic, so hang with me. But when it starts to get interesting is you connect power chords. So watch this. So now go up to the octave right there, the G, and go like this. Root, 5th. So you've got 2 power chord shapes there. Okay. So you can do all these little riffs that I'll show you in a second, but then the next thing I'm going to do is go like this. Is add the octave. Now this is a pretty common thing that you see a lot and hear a lot. now we've added a higher sounding power chord, and it just gives it to me a different sound. Even though it's still a power chord, it's just got this unique, and I use that a lot to connect chords. Okay, now I'm using the third for a second, but watch. Okay? So I use that all the time, man, when I'm playing these little licks. So now let's look at that. So that's our power chord. Now let's find another one. So G, our root, and D, the fifth. So power chord, power chord, power chord. That's a great little exercise if you don't know that. And you can do that, it's all movable. So that's a really useful tool that you can use for all kinds of sounds. You know, you can beef up some if somebody's playing a lower one like this, you can play a higher one. It gives a lot of, just adds a lot of flavor to it. Now, what else can we do with these? Well, we can do lots. As I was mentioning a second ago, you can play these little licks. Now, another thing you can do, and the idea too is this is not just power chords, it's playing licks and leaving out the third. That's really the theme. So, you know, I'll take a scale. If I'm playing G major, sorry, if I go. That was Lydian right there, but like, let me give you a better example. So if I'm playing G major, let's leave out the third by going. Now, I know it doesn't sound like that. It's not very exciting. You've got to think about when you're soloing and writing ideas. You want to leave out that third because it's such a predictable sound, and it's great. So let me give you another example. If I'm going, right, it's very happy sounding, but when you leave it out, it's kind of mysterious. Now, another thing you can do when you're playing that, and it's one of my absolute favorite things, is you add the 9, so you can go like this. That's a beautiful chord right there. So that, to me, is the Andy Summers chord. I think the first time I ever heard that, well, I know the first time I ever heard it, was this. Right, so I learned that lick as a kid too, man, and that's just... that sound blew my mind. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and it still is. It's just a beautiful sound, and it just gives it kind of a wider intervallic sound. Like, so if you're playing power chord, okay, that's pretty cool, but then when you go, it really elevates the sound, and what that is, that's an A note. So if you look at the scale, it's the second, but played up here, right? So if you go do, re, it's that... Beautiful sound, man. So now we can play that in different spots too. I love that. Look at that. So here's that same chord that, and I'm staying in G for a bit. Okay, so G with the 9. Now I'm going. Okay, really nice. Okay, this is how you just start experimenting around. So now I'll take that. And look, I'm putting the D back in. I'm putting the 5 back on top. So. Very interesting sound. You know, and that goes well with suspended chords too, like so if I'm going like let's see here, what was I playing? That, now watch this. I'll show you that in a second. But just start with that little riff, man. Just take that power chord, add the 9. Okay, and that's instantly going to make it sound pretty hip. Now, there's your third if you want to play it. Look. So, you know, you eventually can throw that in there, but the point is to try and leave out the third as much as you can for this little exercise, okay, and find some other unique quality sounds, especially for like writing and things like that. It just gives you a new perspective sometimes that you don't think about, and sometimes it's a good way to get out of ruts. Is just take something, say I'm going to leave out a specific note, and it really opens up a whole nother world, because it's like it's a crutch you get used to playing. You know, if you just get used to playing, you take out one of those notes and it's like, oh man, what's going on here? So okay, now I left off with this little riff, so then we went. Now again, I'll use that. Look at that. Right? Leaving out that third. Okay, now let's stop right there for a second. When I put that third in, it's very noticeable. And it's a great note, obviously, you know. It's very desirable. That's great. Very happy. But when I don't play it, right? It just channels something different. Let's go up here now. If I'm playing my, and you can kind of flip the arrangement of these power chords around too. I like stuff like this. Look, I'll play, here's my D here. So here's the fifth, and then there's the G on top. So it's still a power chord, right? Listen to this. So that's a power chord. Now, as soon as you go like that, there's that third. So we're trying to leave that third out. So watch this. You know, you throw those suspended chords in, and that's, you can do like a suspended second or suspended fourth. So if I go like this, I'm adding that A back in right there. Look, this guy. So now start connecting these ideas. Check this out. There's that add 9, or you know, you can think of it different ways too. Okay, so when I'm playing that, I'm always thinking, okay, well there's my third, and I'm going back a whole step there. Now watch this. Same idea. There's the triad, the G. There's the third, and then we play this, the sus4. Now that's a super common sound, you know. We hear that all the time, right? That resolves to the third, but you don't have to. Listen. Hear the difference? Just a different sound. So again, I'm up here playing around with this idea. No third. I threw the root back in up top. So you got to look at these arrangements of chords. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here, but you got to know how chords are built. You got to have to identify intervals and scales, and that's something that really has helped me out over the years. Is like when you learn the power of one note, what it can do to a sound with or without it, right? So I mean, it adds a lot. It's pretty cool how it works and what the ear can hear and not hear. A couple more examples of that. So like if I'm back up here in G, let's say I go back up here for a second. I was doing this earlier. Right, those are all power chords. That's A, G, F. So, listen. Now, when I'm up here, there's that third. So you can grab it like this. So let's say we want to put it back in for a second. You've got a nice voicing for that. Look at that. And a lot of times, just changing the way you approach a chord will change the way you play it too, because you've got different things going on. So if I'm playing like this versus this, I'm kind of pulling off. I'm doing some different things with that. These extensions, right? Still a G. Now, what I'm doing here though is I'm going adding that guy. So we're going. There's my sus note. It's a major 7 sound. it's G suspended. So let's say I'm up here. Again, here's my power chord. Watch this. First position. You could think of this as a power chord. Just these two notes. And by the way, like this is the kind of sound, I'm not gonna put a bunch of distortion on it right now, but like, you know, you hear that sound like for just a more of a heavy tone, right? But again, you can get any kind of sound you want out of this. Watch this. We don't want him in there. We're leaving the third out, so I'm gonna go. There's minor. Watch. Now if we go back to this, there's my third. There's my sus. So that right there immediately takes out the third. Look at that. That's C note. It's called a sus4. It's the fourth note of the scale. So if I go. But the idea being leave out the third. So watch. Here's the riff. Power chord. Sus. Never hitting a third. All right, there's the third. So, you know, you can resolve like that, but it's a very interesting sound. So I just wanted to, show you guys this because it's a really cool way to find new ideas when you're exploring on the guitar. So hopefully this helped you guys out a little bit, and I appreciate you watching. If you got something out of this, hit the like button, subscribe. You know the routine. Check out my buddy John's Guitar Hang podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.